him to the sharks right now. Get him hype right now. Yeah. You know the ground is up. Yeah. Everybody that trains, you know the game. Yeah. So let's get it. Slap it up, bump it, and roll. Hey. Yeah, that's the way that it goes. Ain't no better way to better yourself in this game. You're feeling the growth. That's real. It's time on the mat. We put in the work. Believe it ain't easy, I know. But we train for the love of the game, the love of the art. Now slap it up, bump it, let's roll. Let's roll. Let's roll. Let's roll. Let's roll. Let's roll.
Welcome to episode 39 of the BJJ Campaign Podcast. My name is Jeff Boone. I'm an A3 Blue Belt, 2 stripes.
And this is Phil Kors, A2 Blue Belt, 1 stripe.
And Philly, this week, I know we're both really excited to put this out there. We were at Toro Cup 14 to help the Davini family a couple weeks ago, and we had the privilege to talk to 8 different black belts and ask them the same 3 questions. So whenever we were kind of thinking of these questions, we wanted them to be open-ended, right? So that they could go kind of anywhere that they wanted to with the questions. And they did. There was a consistent theme of consistency throughout the advice that was given. And I thought that was pretty cool. So the 8 black belts are Jeremy Arel from Great Grappling, Dave Kedash from High Road, Trey Pace from Team Rock, Daniel Frank from Revolution BJJ, and DeAndre Corby, Jake Whitfield, John Schell, and last and certainly not least, world champion Joe Meow.
Yeah, no, it was really cool. This is the best podcast we've done to date. Asking these questions kind of really let them go in whatever direction they felt was important for both them and other people. And you know, it's all really good advice, obviously. So everybody's been a black belt or everybody like them who has been a black belt has been training for a very long time. So they have really good insights on what you should be doing.
Yeah, and just when you said that, our best podcast today, I kind of put together, our best podcast today equals we talk less, they talk more.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point, Phil.
Easily the best one. Yeah.
So without further ado, everyone, here it is. We've got Trey Pace here with the BJJ Campaign Podcast. Trey, we're asking 3 questions, and again, this is just from your own experience.
Yeah.
What is the best advice you've ever received about Jiu-Jitsu?
Just have fun.
Have fun? That's your best? I love that.
That's good.
Yeah.
I love that advice.
Yeah, I think like from a competitive standpoint and from a coaching standpoint, if you're not having fun, you're usually not going to perform well. And if you're not having fun, you're not going to train well. So for me, it was always, I always bring it back to just have fun.
That's awesome. And you compete a lot. I want to delve into that just a little bit more because you compete a lot. I've seen you at U.S. Grappling and all these tournaments. You're always super calm and super happy, that have fun attitude. For people who struggle, for example, I went and did a deep meditation. Some people would call it hypnosis, guided meditation, deep meditation with someone because I had anxiety and I was a wrestler. I competed hundreds, if not thousands of times in wrestling. But I would always have that anxiety, and I think a lot of people suffer from that. Whenever I did that deep meditation, it really helped me.
Okay.
What did you ever have that? And B, if so, or if you help people deal with it, what is your advice on that?
The anxiety portion.
Yes.
I would say it's going to be there regardless. I think what you said, it's just how you deal with it.
Yes.
Everyone deals with it a little bit differently. For me, the military helped me with a lot of that because coming from a military background,
Sure.
being in shitty situations and then being able to push through it definitely helps. But I think more of the fact of just getting in my own head and saying this is nothing but a jiu-jitsu match.
Yeah.
And just saying, look, it's just jiu-jitsu. One, I'm not getting punched in the face. I'm not getting shot at. Like, it could be way worse.
That's good.
So,
points.
it's like
Great points.
I'm just going to have fun. So that's kind of usually what I'm
that's
thinking
awesome.
about.
I love that. Thank you. And the next question is, what's the best advice you feel like you've ever given? And it doesn't have to be an individual. It can be a group. What is your best advice to give to people who are starting out in jiu-jitsu? Because that's really a lot of who listens to the podcast are those folks, those white belts that are starting out.
Yeah.
What's the best advice you can give to them?
I would say, one, have fun with it,
Sure.
like we said before. Two, I would tell them to progress at their own pace. I think that's a big problem starting out with jiu-jitsu, is that people often compare themselves to other people in the gym.
Yeah.
And whether that guy came from, or girl came from, a wrestling background or a judo background or just grappling or MMA background. I did it, right, when I first started out. Like, I'd see the guy, I used to train in Gracie Baja, Clearwater. And AJ Agazarm was coming up at the time.
Sure.
He's doing some weird stuff now, but
He is doing some weird stuff now.
But at the time, that was not his personality. But we were kind of training around the same time, and I remember just comparing myself to him and being like, dang, well, he just won Worlds. I have to win Worlds. And then when I didn't, it was like devastating almost, So, and then talking to other people and other coaches, mainly Ryan Hall, he's the one that explained to me, it's like, dude, you progress at your own pace. And I wasn't a brown belt until I'd figured it out. But I think that would be my advice.
Wow, it took you to brown belt.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, dude.
Is that when Ryan Hall gave you that advice?
Yes, definitely. Yeah, and that was when it clicked.
Ryan Hall really good at jiu-jitsu, folks.
Yeah, if you've never seen it before, you definitely
Go watch.
check him out. But yeah, he explained that to me. He was like, "You're better than you think you are," because I had trouble kind of believing that I was as good as he thought I was. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like a good coach should bring that out in you. But that was his thing to me. Was like, "Hey man, like stop comparing yourself to other people. Compete, go do your thing. Just what happens. Learn from it. If you lose, if you win from it, learn what you need to kind of adjust and go win the next big thing." So that would be my advice: is progress at your own. Don't get wrapped up in the belts. Just learn.
I love that. I love that advice. And so many people, you see it on the forums all the time, right? They're comparing it. And I learned early on. I mean, I'm old. I'm 48 years old. I started when I was 46.
We're doing it, man.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's exactly right. And I'm having fun doing it.
Sometime.
But that's great advice, because people do compare themselves to others, and you have to compare yourself to what you were a week ago, a month ago, a year ago.
Exactly. And it's hard to do that sometimes.
It's really hard.
That's why I love using video, even in the gym. My coach, our MMA coach at the gym, Coach Sess, I always see he videos every training session. And, same kind of thing. Guys will get frustrated. He'll be like, look, this was 2 months ago. You barely could throw a jab. You were rounded up. Now it's crisp, So that's one little area that you've improved.
Yeah.
Now, over the next couple of years, you're going to see that happen with your whole game. And I think it's the same with jiu-jitsu.
Folks, that's a gym right there. That is a gym. Last question. And this one, I kind of struggled with the wording on it, but because I don't think anything is a waste of time in jiu-jitsu, whatever you devote it to. What do you feel like, if at any time in your journey, that you spent too much time on, right? Again, I don't like to say wasted time on, because I think that everything has a benefit. And my for example, is I really spent 6 months diving deep into lasso. Yeah. And it's something that I don't hardly even use anymore.
Yeah.
But I can defend it, so it wasn't a waste of time.
Right.
I
would say one thing that I like to coach on is learn according to your body type.
Yeah.
So I spent a lot of time watching Marcelo Garcia. But he's like this tall, right? So and he's got short limbs, so it was a different body type. Not that the stuff that he does I wouldn't be able to do, but I would probably be better off watching like Roger Gracie.
Yes.
So you know what I'm saying? And that was another thing that, again, Ryan Hall had explained to me. And once I figured that out, I was like, okay, check, that makes sense. The same with wrestling, right? Like, I'm not going to watch these short little dudes blast double legs. I'm not going to be good at the double necessarily, but I can ankle pick like crazy.
Yeah, long arms.
Exactly, right? So I wouldn't say, like you said, it's not a waste of time to learn any of that stuff, but if you want to progress a little faster, I would say look at the guys around your body type and study them, as opposed to, if you're 5 foot nothing and that wide, the triangle might not be your move. You know what I'm saying? You might want to learn the Kimura and the guillotine and those types of moves. So that might be, I think, where I would.
That's really cool advice. I like that. Yeah, I think a lot of people kind of tend to gravitate towards those people, like moves and stuff, but may not put all that together. That's
exactly.
Cool.
And you see it in wrestling, you see it in every other martial art. It's not that not learning that stuff is not important.
Yeah.
But learn the stuff that you're going to be able to pull off. Because I see it in my gym all the time. We got guys that'll come in and they're really good at the lasso, but they're trying to do like single leg X. And I'm like, well, dude, but why not continue to do what you're good at and build on that? It's not that you've mastered it and need to move on. No, figure out all the nuances and everything.
Yeah.
So,
no, I think that's great advice. Yeah. Trey, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. BJJ Campaign Podcast. If you ever get a chance, check it out.
Absolutely. Yeah.
We've got Daniel Frank here from Revolution BJJ, and Daniel, thanks for coming on. What we're doing is a compilation episode, so we're asking the same 3 questions to a bunch of different black belts.
Yep.
And just to kind of set it up in the context of what the BJJ Campaign podcast is, our audience is mostly white belts, just like Jiu-Jitsu. It's mostly white belts, right? And we're trying to, kind of shorten the learning curve and filling out ourselves are blue belts, and so really early in our campaign.
Yeah.
But so the first question is, what's the best Jiu-Jitsu advice you've ever received?
Well, I'd have to say I picked up a lot of advice over the years, but maybe when I was getting ready for either the Pans or the Worlds when I was a brown belt, I had to travel from Korea back to the States in order to do that. So I would be training at Cobrinha's gym for training camps, but my friends trained at Hey Diojo school, and Hey Diojo is an old school Carlson Gracie black belt. Think of Khalid Ismail, but a little calmer, and you got Hey. And I went into one of their classes, and he had a couple guys getting ready for the tournament, and what he said to them was, hey, I know you guys are getting ready for the tournament, but don't forget, this guy you're going against, he's got 1 dick, 2 balls, just like you. And I thought it was funny, but it made those guys feel comfortable, and it's like, yeah, you're not going against Superman, you're going against somebody who's just like you. And so that stuck in my mind, where it's like, yeah, if you ever get nervous, you're like, whatever, it's just another person.
1 dick, 2 balls.
Yep.
I love it. Second question, kind of along the same vein, not the best advice you've ever received, but something it may be just a particular point in somebody's journey, and it was the best advice you felt like you've ever given.
I don't know, that's a tough one. So I've taught for a long time, so I've given a lot of advice.
Sure.
I guess usually when it comes down to competition, I tell a lot of my students who are competing, I tell myself when I do it, when you get to a stable position, when the scrambles are done, you get to something like a guard, a half guard, a mount, a side control. Take a breath, all right, and relax. If you panic, bad things happen. Right?
Yeah.
Transitions, bad things happen. If you could get stable, take a breath, get your head together, then you could win the match. So staying calm, just like those dumb T-shirts. Like, stay calm and win.
Yeah.
100%. I
advice,
totally agree. Yeah. Our professor John Plyler gave me that similar advice. Whenever I was very new white belt. And I was a wrestler, so I had 2 minutes of fury. You've seen those assholes come in. And he took my chest and he goes, just breathe, calm down.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, that hit a light switch for me.
Yeah, definitely.
Last question, and I had a struggle with the wording on this because I don't think that anything in jiu-jitsu is a waste of time. Right. Having said that, I probably spent way too long on lasso guard.
Yeah.
Right? I spent 6 months really deep diving into lasso guard. Maybe it's not. Because now I'm better at defending lasso guard. There's a lot of things in that. My question to you is, what is there anything that you felt like you spent more time than you should have in jiu-jitsu on?
Well, I think, if you spend 6 months at lasso guard, that's not a waste of time.
Agreed.
It's just a drop in the bucket compared to the jiu-jitsu journey. So I spent a year working on a choke I can do from deep half. And then after a year, I found that it's not really practical. And I don't mind doing that. I don't think that was a waste of time, because I found maybe 10 to 12 things that I could do and then 1,000 things that I couldn't do. But I think one of the things that I see, and I know it happens at a lot of gyms, and I'm not going to knock these gyms, but when some people waste time with the warm-up and they stretch it out to where it chews into most of the teaching time. So if you're running a 20 to 30 minute warm-up, you are...
Who the hell runs a 20 to 30 minute warm-up?
I've seen a lot of them. We don't do any warm-up.
That's way tough.
Yeah, we say when
max
you come
5 minutes.
Well, even in seminars too. When we teach class, we expect people to be warmed up, get on the mat, and then start doing jiu-jitsu. instead of running in circles and doing these side-to-side stretches, practice an armbar, practice a triangle, practice anything. But then you could do 100 things better than just solo stretching. Do it at the end.
That's crazy.
That's the best time.
Awesome. Daniel, thank you so much for the time. Really appreciate it. Great match today, too,
Yes,
by the way.
thank you,
Michael
man.
Sandin.
It's fun.
Really good.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, man.
So, yeah, of course.
I'm just going to try to get close because I'm holding the microphone.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I'll be uncomfortably close.
I just had Joe out smash that.
yeah, not that close.
Super good point. Super good point.
Fresh off his match with Joe Meow, world champ, we got DeAndre Corby here with us. And DeAndre, we're asking a lot of different folks that have been doing jiu-jitsu for a very long time the same 3 questions. We're going to do a compilation episode, and so just to give you the context behind the questions, our audience is a majority, just like jiu-jitsu, is a majority white belts.
Okay,
right?
that's awesome, man. That's the best belt.
Yeah, it is, right? There's no pressure, no
I'm still a white belt,
expectation.
you know?
Yeah,
I'm still a white
right?
belt.
You have that in mind, right? So with that in mind, what's the best advice that you've ever received about jiu-jitsu?
In terms of jiu-jitsu, I learned a lot from my instructor. I have multiple, my gym has multiple black belt instructors, old school guys, man. And the thing I learned from them the most and the best advice was consistency and longevity beat intermittent intensity. It does. I see guys, they take long breaks, they go hard 5 days a week, 6 days a week, 7 days a week, and then I don't see them for a couple months. And it's very hard to get good like that. I think as long as you're training consistently and you're keeping healthy, the longer you stay, I think the better. And then, as opposed to just going hard, for me, I don't like doing fight camps or tournament training up to tournament. I think you should train all year round and then just tweak your training depending on what's happening, what's going on in your season. So if I got 3 tournaments lined up, nothing really changes. I'm still training every day. I just should vary the training a little bit, change it around a little bit just to get prepped up. Never do I take super long breaks.
So and sorry, this is that made me think of another question. What's the longest period of time you've taken off for an injury or otherwise, whatever it was?
I've been training 10 years in September. Maybe 2 days. I take it to
Get
2
out
days.
of here!
No, 2 days. There's intermittent, 1 day I'll take off. But for the most part, after a tournament, usually me and my brother in the gym in the morning training. Right. Usually because my brother, I just graduated college and my brother's in college, and all throughout we started jiu-jitsu when we were in middle school, right? Or when I was in middle school, he was in elementary school. And then ever since that, we trained every day, and after tournaments we'll train. We train right away, man. In the morning, we're drilling. Me and the next morning, me and my brother are drilling before school. We'll drill before school just to get it in. And it doesn't have to be hard. We're just moving around just to get, just in case.
Active recovery.
Yeah.
To kind of go over the stuff that you probably would have liked to have done better.
Exactly,
right?
and it's fresh in your mind.
Right.
You know?
Deep learning.
Yeah.
Making those grooves.
Yeah, man, it's fresh in your mind. And to be honest, man, I don't think you need breaks for jiu-jitsu. I think you could still train. You can still train. Me and my brother train 7 days a week, right? Multiple times a day. But it doesn't mean every training session we have is a go kill each other, right? Not even in every session we spar. We in the morning, like I said, in the morning before now I work, right? I have a regular job, and then my brother's at school.
That sucks.
Hey man, it's fun, man. It's fun.
Right.
But before work, I get a drilling, hour drilling, and it's not hard. We got a good sweat going. We're moving around. We feel good at the end of the training session. Feel like we got something done. And then if it's a light day, maybe that'll be our only training session. If we got a tournament, like for example, yesterday we just drilled. I had a tough match today, so feel well rested. Got a good night's sleep and drilled a little bit. Maybe some light sparring just to move around, break a sweat, but that's pretty much it. But I don't think you should take long breaks unless you're injured. You know? Even when you're injured, you can still. My instructor said, even when you're injured, you could just modulate your training. Trust your training. You should have a trust in your training partners where you could get something good. You get a good training session without re-injuring.
Yeah. No, that's great advice. And so just to give you a story, and this has been the longest I've had to take off. And I was out 7 days because I popped a rib, right? But whenever I say take off, I didn't really take off because what I did is I worked on my hip mobility.
Yeah.
Right? You know, I mean, I was doing things that, because I knew if I was sparring or anything like that, or if I was doing fundamentals, if I twisted a certain way, that rib injury doesn't get better.
Right.
You know, but it wasn't that I was taking off. It was that I was doing that mobility training, try to make my other parts of my jiu-jitsu better.
And that being said, there's other ways to do jiu-jitsu. It doesn't have to be physical. You can study. You can study and watch. YouTube is an amazing thing. And then all the online like training databases. Like I know a lot of big gyms have like their online training.
Andrew Smith right there. Revolution.
No, I used to watch that. I used to be on their YouTube channel every day.
I know. I know, right? I love it. So thank you. So we're going to turn around for the second question. Mm-hmm. Not the best advice you've ever received. What's the best advice that you could give to someone?
Big thing, and I've been doing it for about 2 years, is never neglect your strength training and nutrition. I think if you want to, like I said at the beginning, that going back to that longevity, being able to train for a long time, your strength training, and I'm not saying become go to the gym every day and just pump iron, right? Just do basic strength, educate yourself on strength training and nutrition, and then your jiu-jitsu, you'll enjoy jiu-jitsu so much more because you'll be on the mat more, man. You never get injured. And if your body is strong, not necessarily like trying to get big numbers up in the gym, but having being resilient. Your body's resilient. You can train more, and then like I said, the longer you train, the better you'll get.
What's your diet? What do you follow?
You know, I forgot. I have a good friend, Rob Wilson. He actually helped me a lot in that field, like in terms of strength, conditioning, and nutrition. He's actually one of the instructors at Art of Breath. If you guys want to check that out, Art of Breath is it's like he basically goes in a deep dive in the art and the science behind proper breathing. Yeah. And I've actually done some a seminar. You know, like when you see Hickson do that weird thing.
Choke. Yeah.
He's actually explaining why and what's going on there, and why different breathing patterns, and what is that saying to your body? Like if you're breathing out your mouth, breathing out your nose. Well, he. What was the question? I got kind of lost.
No, your best advice that you could give. And you said it. You said your best advice is nutrition and strength training. Absolutely.
What's my diet like, right?
Yeah.
He told me and he quoted somebody else, so I'm quoting somebody's quote, right? He's saying
it's hearsay for the judicious in the audience.
he said I forgot. He's gonna kill me for forgetting, but he told me someone said, if man made it, don't eat it. Yeah.
100%. Yeah. That's what I follow.
Yeah, and people may call it paleo, all that stuff.
Yeah,
but I don't.
Primal, paleo, whatever.
Whatever name you give it, as long as if it's coming from a box and it you read the back on the label and it's like a bunch of scientific words that have 28 letters on there, like you probably shouldn't eat it.
That's exactly right. I've heard if it didn't exist 100 years ago, you probably shouldn't eat it.
Yeah, and there's and sometimes I'll have like I'm not saying I eat like that 100%. Like probably after this, I'll enjoy a dinner with my team, whatever we're gonna go eat. I don't care. Yeah. But for the most part, I'll eat things that are not less processed. You know, it just makes me feel good.
Yeah.
And then a lot of that is because I learned that through jiu-jitsu because 100%. I wanted to compete a lot. So I educated myself on nutrition and strength training just to make sure I'm on the mat and I'm 100% on the mat, you know?
Yeah, and you know, too, I did that same thing. Whenever I started, I was like, best thing to supplement and get cardio in jiu-jitsu. And then the first thing that came up was steroids. Well, I wasn't going to do that.
Right.
And then the second thing was nutrition. And so I started doing that. And I was like, holy shit, man, there's something to this.
Oh, yeah.
There's something to this big time.
It's like when you start getting in a good groove of, it's not even just a diet. It's like more of a better eating habits.
Yeah.
Like once you start getting in the groove of that, man, it's just like when you go back to eating crappy food, if you do it, you feel like you don't want to do it anymore. Yeah.
Yeah, you feel like dog shit.
You go on the mat the next day
like
oh.
You're like, God, I feel terrible.
I don't want to do this, man. Yeah.
And you know what, too? That discipline, it breeds discipline in others, because a lot of times whenever I go out and somebody says, oh, come on, Jeff, take this, and somebody be like, you don't eat that shit, man.
Right, yeah.
You don't eat that shit, you know?
Yeah.
And so that discipline breeds discipline in others, and they see that example. It's just, that's smart. Thank you.
Yeah, it's all. To be honest, man, because it's something you're putting in your body. I think it should be. You should know what you're putting in your body and how it affects you. And I know a big thing about nutrition. Everybody's is very individual. So what I eat may make me feel good, different from what you eat, right? But as long as you kind of have to dial into that. Like maybe I like eating a certain food. It makes me feel good. Maybe it totally messes you up on the mat. You know?
Sure.
So, and you gotta. And I think the cool thing about what jiu-jitsu has given me is like. I'm on my own experiment. I'm my own scientist experiment, right? I do like whatever I want to try. I'll do it on myself. If it works, good. I'll keep it. If it doesn't, throw it out. You know.
And you're highly tuned, man. Highly tuned competitor. So you're going to notice the little shit, man. Not like if you're eating crappy stuff, you're not going to notice the little stuff that you do. If you make an improvement in your nutrition and you eat something bad, like you said, you feel like shit whenever you're rolling.
I'm like, oh, don't eat that again.
Yeah, that's it. Last question, DeAndre, and this is I had a tough time figuring out the wording of this because I don't think anything's a waste of time in jiu-jitsu. You know, Phil and I are blue belts. You know, we don't know anything, but like I spent 6 months on lasso guard. I probably shouldn't have spent that. That could have been what better spent fundamentals or something else, right? Is there in your jiu-jitsu campaign? Is there anything that you were like, man? I look back and I'm like. All right, yeah, it probably wasn't a waste of time because I know how to defend it better. But is there any part of your game where you were like, I probably could have not spent so much time on that? And it's okay if you say no.
Let me think about it. Think about waste of time. I don't think there's a particular technique, but I'll tell you this. I think a waste of time is going on like a YouTube... like a deep YouTube rabbit hole, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like you watch YouTube, you know, like the algorithm for the algorithm for YouTube is to keep you on YouTube, right? Or not necessarily YouTube. Anytime you're on Instagram or anything like that, like it's cool to see, but once you like if you're on there all the time, you start getting all these different techniques in your head, and like oh, I'm gonna work on that. I'm gonna work on that. Oh, I'm gonna save that on Instagram and do that the next day, and then sometimes. It's so like almost like information overload. Yeah. Like you go in like a bunch of different directions, like a foot in a bunch of different directions, you know, like as opposed to like staying in one direction going all the way through. Like, you know, I think you should be positionally, and when you're doing jiu-jitsu, you should focus on one position while maintaining your other positions if you want to learn. But that YouTube or that Instagram information overload, man, it kind of hinders your progress, you know. Yeah. And YouTube and all that online stuff is never a replacement for a instructor, right? An instructor that actually like study, like is on the mat with you every day. You give you advice and give you like feedback instantly. And I think a lot of people get lost in that watching YouTube. Don't get me wrong, man. I watch YouTube. I watch technique. I go on Instagram, but 2 or 3 techniques and now stop. Don't be honest.
I'm with you, man. I gotta stop or I'll sit there all freaking night and just go through that.
And you start losing sleep over
What's the defense to that?
Yeah. How do you counter that? Like Del Hiva sweeps, Del Hiva counters, Del Hiva passes, and then now you can't sleep because you're thinking too much.
No, man. So, ladies and gentlemen, check DeAndre Corby out. Fantastic match, and thank you so much for making the time for us. Really appreciate it, man.
Thank you.
Yeah, great job.
Man. Appreciate it. Okay, we're here with Jeremy Arel, and we're going to ask the same couple questions that we've been asking everybody else. So the first one is the best advice you've ever received about jiu-jitsu.
Well, right on. So early on, I really valued competition a lot. I would say that I got in jiu-jitsu to compete. I had those aspirations of being an MMA fighter. And my coach approached me and he said, Jeremy, you can win your division every time that you compete in your division, but you're not in your division. And that was his nice way of telling me that I was fat and I needed to lose some weight. And he was right. You know, we need to understand that jiu-jitsu is about leverage. A lever is a mechanical device that multiplies force. That lets us know that force is still part of the equation, and part of force is mass. And so that is why we have weight classes. And understanding that is an important thing early on.
Cool, yeah. And the best advice you've ever given could be today.
The best advice I've ever given. Man, I give a lot of advice. I guess just don't quit. If you have a quality program with a quality instructor, a good community around you, and you keep going to class, it's really difficult to not get better. But what ends up happening is the increases in your skill as you progress become so small, so minute. Just think about weightlifting. You start weightlifting early on, you make these big gains, it's really easy to see, and then you hit these plateaus and you will struggle to get a 2-pound increase, on a max. And jiu-jitsu is kind of like that as well, except we don't have plates to put on that you can visually see your progress, especially when you and your peer group are all progressing together. They're learning alongside you, they're training alongside you. To make gains in relation to someone else can really be difficult. So don't lose heart, just keep going. Getting better at jiu-jitsu is about practice. And so the more mat hours you get, the better off you'll be. So just don't quit.
Yeah, we had recently talked about this where it's, you start out and you can see so much progress so fast, and then you get to a point where you're pretty confident in the majority of self-defense kind of situations. Mm-hmm. And then if this guy's been training 3 years longer than you and he trains 5 times a week just like you do, it's not going to be, it's going to be really hard to see those incremental gains still.
I agree.
And then the last question is there anything you felt that maybe you wasted time on in jiu-jitsu, whether it's a position or a technique, or for example, I feel like I spend my comfort zone example for would be like closed guard. Mm-hmm. And I need to get out of that, and I need to experiment with and try to get better at other areas. So is there anything like that you feel like you might have wasted time on?
No, I think it all builds into understanding how the puzzle fits together. And so I have views on jiu-jitsu. It's a lot like a 10,000-piece puzzle. And at first, it's really hard to get perspective on what the puzzle is actually the picture of, what the picture of jiu-jitsu is. But there comes a point where you have enough pieces where you can understand the outline, like when you're putting together a puzzle, right? And so it doesn't really matter what order you practice the things in. You don't want to be too one-dimensional. It makes it very easy to coach against you and set up strategies against you. And so you want a diverse game. My goal, my suggestion would be step up to the buffet of jiu-jitsu, listen to your instructor at first. Building that foundation and the fundamentals is, of course, very important. For me, the foundation positions are side control, mount, close guard, and back. Understand those pretty intimately before you start moving into some of the larger spaces, which can be a little bit more chaotic to deal with. But if you have a good instructor that has a quality program and has kind of ordered those things for you, I don't think you're really wasting time even when you work on things that are outside of what would be mechanically advantageous for you or not, because you'll understand them intimately if you ever need to teach them to someone, but chances are there will be someone that will use that particular skill set against you, and if you understand it, it makes it easy to troubleshoot or defend against. So I wouldn't say I wasted time, but I would definitely hit the foundation first, and then just take you where your heart goes, but have a focused approach to your training. If you're going to work inverted guard and that's what you're going to work, I went on a tangent for that for a couple of years, then really go in and work on that with a purpose. But what you're working on, ask your professor if you trust them. If you don't, find a new professor.
That's good advice.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much.
Yeah, man. No problem.
I'm Dave Kedash from High Road BJJ.
Very good. So today on the podcast, are you good, Phil?
Yeah.
Okay, we got Dave Kedash, High Road Revolution, a great sponsor of the Toro Cup. We're here at Toro Cup 14. So we got 3 questions for you. And the first question is, what is the best advice you ever received in jiu-jitsu? And if you have to think of it in a context, our audience is a lot of newer white belts. We're blue belts, so we're very early in our campaign. And so what is the best advice you've ever received?
The best advice I've ever received?
Mm-hmm.
You got to stay patient. You have to believe in yourself and understand that just because you might be at the lower end of the belt spectrum doesn't mean you're not doing something special compared to the rest of the population of the globe. You're already elite just by doing jiu-jitsu. And if you remind yourself of that, it doesn't mean you can't be brilliant as a white belt or a blue belt. There's a lot of war heroes in the military that were the lowest ranking people in the service, and they have parade fields named after them with high medals. I believe jiu-jitsu is the same way. You can absolutely do great things at any belt color, and just be patient with it.
Very good, thank you. And now, it's kind of switching around a little bit. What's the best advice you've ever received?
Best advice I've ever received.
Yeah.
Again, to be patient. When you've done other martial arts and you feel like you moved faster, it's not a direct correlation or comparison. Like, what you bring in terms of your character is what you bring, but it doesn't always play out in the same time frame. So sometimes people get impatient and then they self-defeat. You just have to believe that every day is another penny in the penny jar, and it's going to add up. And you're going to have more hard days than good days. But that's advice I learned early on when I wasn't catching on right away. I'm like, I just can't do this. But you can, is what I was told.
Great, very good, thank you. And the last question, and I struggled with the phrasing, the wording of this question, because I don't think anything is a waste of time in jiu-jitsu. But and I'll give it for example. I spent a lot of time on lasso guard. Mm-hmm. I don't think it was a waste of time, but it's not a guard that I use today. What is something that you spent time on in your own personal BJJ campaign that you would have, or is there anything that you would have said, probably could have spent less time on that, more time on this?
I'll say this, and it's kind of like teaching certain things that might be considered off the grid for like a white belt, like say heel hooks or something. Mm-hmm. I believe there's value in all of it simply because even if you don't do it, even if it's not going to be your game, as they say, you still need to be aware that it exists because you could get caught in it, and you still need to know how to address it. So I don't think there's any wasted time. I think a diverse introduction to everything doesn't hurt. Where you specialize, there should be your fundamentals, hip control, basic movement. The jiu-jitsu you're going to do forever.
Yeah.
There is some stylish guard systems and advanced techniques, but you don't see people doing them as much as shrimping and escaping, right? So there's probably a reason for that, and that's what I tell people.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And it's funny you say that because it was literally like a month ago. I trained under John Plyler at Fight to Win in Denver, North Carolina. Me and Phil both. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I was looking around and he said something about, you know how you move your hips whenever you swim your legs, you're doing the leg circles, egg beaters, whatever.
Sure.
I was like, no. He was like, all right, Jeff, come on, let's go. So he was like, no, you move your hips. And I was like, oh, okay, I got it now. And that's a fundamental movement.
Exactly.
And
I harp on a lot. I'm an older guy, but I still hold my own with the 20-year-olds that are trying to wreck you because they just know their go-to move, which is aggression, strength, fitness. And people are like, man, you're not even winded. It's like, because I know where to put my energy, and a lot of that has to do with putting yourself in good spots to begin with. And it took me a while. Like, I'm not an attacker guy. I'm a defender and escaping guy. But I'm learning, as a black belt, as I teach every other day, the fundamentals are what matter. And you start to see them more and more in the more technical jiu-jitsu. And then you can pick apart your next move. I tell people I don't have an answer for every move, but I understand how things feel. And I know how I want my base, and I know where I want my hips. And that's my base for my next moves. So that's my thoughts on that.
And Dave, thank you so much for what you do for your sponsorship at Toro Cup and the great things you're doing with High Road Revolution. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Appreciate you guys, and thank you for the time.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thanks, brother.
We're here with John Shell from Shell Shock BJJ, Team Hubal Carioca. And John, today we're asking 3 questions. And the first question is, what's the best advice that you've ever received? And just maybe keep in mind that we have a majority white belt audience. And maybe directed towards that or not, whatever you feel like. But the best advice you've ever received about jiu-jitsu.
The best advice, talking about closed guard position I've ever received, was making sure my elbows are locked out completely and making sure that I'm looking at the sky and not what my opponent is doing down below. So a lot of times people get in the habit of their elbows will bend a little bit. It's very easy for the person on bottom to pull them in. Also, if I'm looking down, that makes my posture look down also, and so it's very easy for the opponent down there to pull back in. So once I started doing that, I started having a lot of success opening the guard, things like that, early on, And then going forward later on, it's just my instructor told me a long time ago, like, we have a tournament coming up like on that Saturday, and I was like, oh, well, I need to rest for like, you know, Thursday and Friday to make sure I'm okay for Saturday. It's like, oh, no, you need to be in here every day of the week. That way, you know, it's fresh in your mind. And for a while, I didn't understand that concept, but then it started really making sense, because when you take a step back, yeah, your body heals up, but early on, you take that time off, and then you start losing pieces that you had before, you know.
I love that.
So it wasn't until you get more skill that things really stick with you, and you could take, you know, a little bit of time.
Yeah, and not have to worry about them being the go-to move and practicing them and drilling them every day.
That's right.
Excellent. Awesome.
It's cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Second question. Kind of just a role reversal. Not the best advice you've ever received, but the best advice that you've ever given. And it's in any context of jiu-jitsu. However you want to apply that.
Let me see.
And I've heard some really good advice.
Okay, so I have this. This thing I usually tell people. It's somebody told me a long time ago, and so I repeat it to my students too. It's like you got to be very careful when you first start jiu-jitsu. You have all your friends and everybody from your private life. They're not going to understand your journey in martial arts. They're not going to understand why you go in and you beat up yourself and you come back and you're tired and you're sore. They're not going to understand that, and they're going to try to be like, come on, hang out with us. You don't have to go tonight. Like, you're there all the time. Don't worry about it, And so it's like crabs in a bucket. So, when you have a bunch of blue crabs in a bucket, one's trying to escape the bucket, you'll have all these other crabs pinching at and pulling them back in the bucket. And so you need to understand that you want to be that crab that gets out of the bucket and changes his life, and not the one that keeps getting pulled back in. So that's the like, every once in a while, everybody, people are like, hey, are you gonna have the crabs in a bucket talk?
That's your go-to talk. Yeah. I love that,
but
man.
I say it every, I think, once every 6 months or so.
Because you got a new cycle of white belts.
Exactly. So people have to hear that, because what happens is you get white belts in, and then their friends are like trying to pull them back in the bucket. It might be alcohol, it might be drugs, it might be a lot of different things. It might be a bad relationship. So I'm like, I gotta have the crabs in the bucket talk again. It might be a girlfriend that's just trying to keep them home.
Yeah.
It's just a lot of things.
No, man, you hit the nail on the head too, and it's, I've seen it with me. Whenever I started, I was a fat slob and out of shape and everything, and then I was going, I was sore. I was like, fuck, this hurts to do this. This is hard to do this. And like, come on out, have a beer. I'm like, nope. I'm gonna do that, man.
Yeah,
I'm in something now.
I had no friends, so it was way easier.
Yeah,
Bucket was empty.
Phil only has jiu-jitsu friends now, so it's perfect. He's got the perfect situation. And thank you. And last question, John. I struggled with wording this question, and here's why. Because I don't feel like anything's a waste of time in jiu-jitsu.
Right.
But I also feel like I spent way too long on lasso guard. Right? So if you were to look back at your jiu-jitsu campaign, what would you say? And maybe you're going to say absolutely nothing, and that's a perfectly fine answer. But what would you say is something, not that you wasted your time on, but you would have probably spent less time on?
I think that everybody goes through a lot of different things while they're training jiu-jitsu. I would say that the most important things are basic fundamental things. I think whenever people go into more advanced things and they try it before it's time to do those things, it makes them realize how important the fundamentals are. So
100%.
I think that it's gonna happen. People are gonna be, I want to try lasso guard, for example. I want to try this. What's worm guard?
Keenan Cornelius.
Yeah. What's his worm guard and this and that? Screw all that, man. Like, get really good at the fundamentals, and that'll make you understand that the fundamentals are very, very important. And then once you do that, and everything else is gonna fall in place. But I think that going too early into everybody wants to do it. I did it. I mean, I don't think there's a person out there that didn't go
What was your
watching
thing?
videos.
What was your thing, though? What was your, little obsession? Because mine is still leg locks and entries.
Well, I didn't really have an obsession because my instructor very quickly, he's like, "Oh, come here, show me, show this on me, let me see this." And I would start to do it to him. He just smashed the crap out of me, and I was like, "Okay, not gonna do that anymore." So then I was like, I learned that, if I come to him with something, it better be something that's sound and fundamental. Otherwise, it's not something I need to be doing.
Yeah.
So.
And folks in the audience, that's the third time we've heard fundamentals. So I don't know about you guys, but I'm going to start fucking working on fundamentals more. I mean, I always do. I always said to Phil, fundamentals, that's the way to go whenever we're doing the blue belt stuff.
Thanks for the money.
Yeah, good. Whenever I got the blue belt, I told my professor, I'm like, I'm doubling down on helping with the kids and doing fundamentals and really committing to fundamentals. He's like, good plan. So everybody listen to that. John Shell, thank you so much.
Thank you, man.
We appreciate you, man. We appreciate you and Sam both.
I appreciate it, guys.
Yeah, man. This is the BJJ Campaign Podcast. This is Jeff Boone with Phil Kors, and we have a guest, Jake Whitfield. Jake, welcome to the show. Appreciate you coming on. We have 3 questions that we've kind of been asking a lot of different people. And the first question is, what's the best advice about jiu-jitsu that you've ever received?
Ooh, that is a tough one.
Yeah.
I think that different advice helps at different times.
Sure.
Helps different people at different times.
Let me rephrase
That makes a lot of
it.
sense.
Yeah.
Because our podcast is made up mostly of newer white belts.
Right.
Right? So the best advice maybe that was a long time ago.
Yeah.
I don't even know if you remember that time. But
Yeah.
But the best advice that you had received as a white belt.
Well, so it wasn't like verbal advice.
Sure.
But see, when I started training a long time ago,
Right.
Me and some friends had been practicing with like some tapes and some, just like the Gracie basics and that type of thing. And so there was a lot of moves that I thought that I knew, and I didn't. Like I had I maybe looked at it and knew what it was, but I couldn't actually do it. And so I remember being a white belt, and Spencer Itorkanup was my instructor, and he taught a move, and I looked at it, and in my head I thought, oh, I know how to do it. And so then right away he's like, okay, everybody go get with your partner, practice the move. And then we went to practice the move, and I did it the way that I knew it in my head, and it was completely wrong. And he came over and he said, was like, what was that? It's like, oh, well, I was trying to do the move. He's like, okay, well, but you need to do it the way that I told you to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And so then he walked me back through it one step at a time, put your elbow here, do this, do that. And all of a sudden, magically, the move works. So probably like the best advice I ever got for a white belt was do it the way I told you to do it.
Yeah.
I love that advice. I think that's great advice. And I think we all have those preconceived notions on that type of stuff. You're like, oh yeah, I've seen a Kimura 1,000 times.
Yeah.
Right? I can do a Kimura.
Right.
And Phil lets go of a Kimura every single time.
It's not good.
Right.
He doesn't do a good Kimura.
Yeah, and that's like my favorite thing now is that anytime somebody comes out with like a fundamentals DVD or like blue belt requirements, I want to watch that.
Yeah.
When the new upside down lapella plata thing comes, I don't care.
Keenan Cornelius.
Yeah, right. And I mean, the guys doing that are great.
Sure, of course they are.
But when I hear a high level guy comes out with fundamentals, I'm like, that's
your Gracie.
That's
let's
the
go.
one I want. Right. Right.
Very good. Second question. It's kind of a reversal of the first question.
Mm-hmm.
What's the best advice you've ever given, or you feel that you've given? And again, you can preface that by saying it was to this person at this time, not name the person, just their kind of level or anything or in general.
I mean, the thing is that you have to. So there's a guy named Roddy Ferguson. I don't know if you've ever heard of him. Roddy Ferguson is, in my opinion, one of the most intelligent guys in the combat sports community. Okay. He has several doctorate degrees. He has several PhDs. and he was on the Olympic team in judo. He competed in ADCC. He's just an amazing guy, super smart. His name's Roddy Ferguson. You should check him out.
We will.
And he put out a thing maybe like a year and a half ago where he said that whatever system you're in, you need to be part of that system.
Okay.
And that's what I try to remind people is like when they come into my school, I have a lesson plan. On Monday, the lesson, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday are all connected together.
Yeah.
Maybe you're not here for all 3 lessons, and that's fine. But there is that connection between them. And it's a system that if you follow what I teach Monday, what I teach Tuesday, what I teach Wednesday, you're going to get a result. And so that's my advice that I give to a lot of people, especially people who come to my school from another school, is that like, hey, whatever you did before, that's great. You know, I'm not trying to discount what anybody else did or what anybody else taught you, but in my school, you need to follow the system that I have in place because it is a system of step-by-step how to actually get better. And so whatever system you're a part of, if you trust your instructor, you need to be in that system.
Yep.
And if you don't trust your instructor, you shouldn't be training there.
Makes sense.
Agreed. Totally agree.
Yeah.
Great advice. Last question, and I struggled with wording this question because I don't feel like anything's a waste of time that you train in jiu-jitsu. And I'll give you, for example, I spent 6 months with lasso guard. I rarely do it now.
Right.
But it wasn't a waste of time because I know how to defend better now. Right. So what would you say in your campaign with jiu-jitsu was something that you would have spent less time on if given the option?
Yeah, that's a tough one.
Right? No, it is. It is a tough one.
So I think people go through different seasons in their training.
Sure.
And so I'm still a relatively young guy compared to a lot of people in the community. I'm only 34, but I've been training for over half my life, you know? So when I was much younger, I definitely was a competitor. I was a fighter, and I had the mindset of a competitor and a fighter where every round is about beating the person. Every round is about how can I solve the problem that's in front of me.
Yeah.
And I do believe that that's healthy when it's like, let's say you have 2 blue belts, 160 pounds, both of them are in shape and they're same level. I think those guys should absolutely be battling with each other every day. But different situation, if that 160 pound blue belt is rolling with a 145 pound white belt, you don't need to battle.
Correct.
You need to look at different ways to get something out of the roll. And I spent a long time with that competitive mindset, with that mindset of wanting to win. And I wish that I had cared less about winning more often. But you're right, nothing is wasted because, like, I just got tapped with a move. I probably saw it in a magazine or something once, and I looked at it and said, that'll never work. Well, and so I didn't pay any attention to it. And then Jeremy tapped me with it.
Americana from the guard, right? I mean, he just passed your guard, right?
Right, so it's like an Americana, but you don't actually hold the wrist. It's an
It was crazy. I saw it firsthand. I was like, whoa.
Right, and so I saw it maybe 10 years ago. I saw it in a magazine or something, but I said, that'll never work. So I didn't pay any attention to it. Then I got tapped with it. So then I had to go back and say, hey, Jeremy, show me that move.
Yeah.
You know, so nothing is wasted as long as you're learning.
How long have you been training jiu-jitsu?
Like 18 years.
And you still go back and ask, can you show me that move? That's really
cool.
Yeah,
man. If anybody... So first of all, if you're a white belt, you're a blue belt. If you see something work against a black belt, you need to find out what it is. Because black belts, if it works against a black belt, it works.
Period, yeah.
Period,
test, yeah.
Right? And so the same thing. If something works against me and I've never seen it before, I got to learn that move. If I don't learn it, then what am I doing?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, that's awesome. And I love that. I absolutely love that. And I think you're spot on. You know, I think a lot of people get caught up. I know I did. And it was probably, I let go of it probably 4 months in when I was caught up in, because I was a wrestler, I caught up in winning, and I was, by the way, I was 100 pounds heavier when I started jiu-jitsu. Right. So I was a big person.
Right.
That's not a great recipe.
Right.
For a good training partner.
Sure.
And so once I let that go, and also like you said, training, some of us similar size, similar skill, go.
Right.
It's good, and as long as you guys have that understanding, right?
Right.
But that someone that's smaller, a white belt, take risks.
Yeah.
Right? Why wouldn't you take every risk that you possibly could? Because guess what? If you take those risks and you get put in a bad position, they're a freaking white belt.
Right.
Right. You should be able to get out of it.
Yeah.
So I love that.
Yep, absolutely.
Thank you. Jake Whitfield, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, guys.
That was awesome.
Zhao, thank you for an entertaining match today with DeAndre Corby. He's tough, isn't he?
Yeah,
he's a tough guy. But the pressure, man, you had that pressure down on him too. It was really impressive to watch. So thank you for being with us today. Joe Meow for the BJJ campaign podcast, world champion, just recently off a world champ victory. So congratulations on that. We've got 3 questions, pretty simple questions that we're going to ask, and we're asking multiple black belts these questions. And just to put it in context, our audience, just like jiu-jitsu, is mostly white belts, right? So keeping that in mind, but whatever your answers are, they are. And the first question is, what's the best jiu-jitsu advice that you've ever received?
Qual que é a melhor dica?
Não, qual o melhor conselho que você recebeu?
Um conselho que eu melhor recebi?
Fala muito não.
O que todo mundo fala, treinar bastante, que um dia você vai conseguir o que você quer.
So what everyone says, just train as much as you can, as much as possible, or train a little more than that. Then one day you reach your goal.
Nice. Very good. And so kind of going back in the other direction, what's the best advice you've ever given?
Que eu dei, né?
Que você já deu.
Acho que é a mesma coisa. Treina bastante que sua hora vai chegar.
The same thing, you train as much as you can and one day you're going to reach your goal.
Yeah. I like that because I think that's very important and something that's a big part is the consistency and that's what a lot of people have said, the consistency throughout the journey. When did you, just as a follow-up question, when did he know that when did you know training was going to be your life?
Quando você descobriu que o treino ia ser sua vida, jiu-jitsu?
Foi logo no primeiro ano assim que eu fiz jiu-jitsu lá na minha cidade natal, Andirá, eu descobri que era isso que eu queria, porque uma coisa que eu gostava assim, que eu não via o tempo passar e eu me sentia muito, muito bem fazendo assim, e tipo, até hoje assim, eu nunca você vai me ver no tatame assim, que é por obrigação, é sempre uma coisa que eu quero fazer, sempre gostei de treinar e gosto até hoje assim, do mesmo jeito que quando eu era faixa branca.
So when the first year they started training, he already knew that was gonna be for his life because he really liked to be on the mat and he wasn't the mat, he didn't feel the hours going through the day and until today, you're never gonna see him upset on the mat, So he's not gonna be there because he has to. He's gonna be there because he wants to. So that's what he said.
Yeah, no, thank you. Good. And the last question, Zhao, is this. And I don't believe there's any waste of time in jiu-jitsu, but in my own experience, I felt like I spent too long at a certain point on lasso guard, right? So what if anything, what do you feel like in jiu-jitsu? And maybe the answer is nothing at all. But what did you feel that you spent maybe more time on that you shouldn't have?
Que você gastou, qual tipo de técnica no jiu-jitsu que você gastou mais tempo na sua vida, assim?
Eu gosto sempre na minha categoria assim, sempre todo mundo faz berimbolo e 50, então acho que essas duas posições a gente tem que estar afiado na nossa categoria, que é saber defender o berimbolo, que é saber fazer o berimbolo, saber atacar da 50 quanto por cima e quanto por baixo.
It's like his vision. Everyone does berimbolo and 50-50 guard, so he said that's most what he's been doing most like since we started competing. And he said you need to know how to do a berimbolo, how to defend it, and how to attack from the 50 feet on top and 50 on bottom, you know.
So he doesn't feel like that was a waste of his time, though, right?
Você não acha que isso foi tipo,
You felt it was important.
Você não achou que você gastou tempo na sua vida?
Gastei não, mano. Porque é uma coisa. Eu investi meu tempo nisso aí, porque se eu consegui ganhar os campeonatos até hoje foi por causa disso, porque eu sabia o que eu tava fazendo ali. Porque toda luta eu caio numa 50, ou eu tento fazer o berimbolo, ou tô defendendo o berimbolo. Então.
He said like no, that was never a waste of time. It was like I put like investment, you know, at a time. And if he knows what he knows today, is because he put like a lot of hours into it, and
Awesome, thank you guys.
Wow, some great insights from all those black belts. Thanks to them for taking the time. And sorry for the background noise, but as I said, we were at Toro Cup. And Philly, tell the folks, if they so choose, how to help us out, show their appreciation, what they can do.
BJJCampaignPodcast.com, Facebook.com/BJJCampaignPodcast, and we have a group on there too that we're trying to get videos and memes and all that good stuff kind of going on that group. So join that and check that out. Instagram, YouTube, all BJJ Campaign Podcast. Check it out. Shirts and patches are available on the website.
Yes, and also thanks to Green Compass and my BJJ notes. Also, if you've got friends out there, likely if you do jiu-jitsu and you're listening to this podcast, you have friends who do jiu-jitsu and listen to podcasts. So, if you give us a recommendation to those folks, we'd appreciate it. And so with that said, if you aren't out there doing something each and every day to be better, get out there and do it. Phil and I choose jiu-jitsu. We hope you do too.
Feed him to the sharks right now. Get him hype right now. Yeah. You know the ground is up. Yeah. Everybody that trains, you know the game. Yeah. So let's get it. Slap it up, bump it, and roll. Hey. Yeah, that's the way that it goes. Ain't no better way to better yourself in this game. You're feeling the growth. That's real. It's time on the mat. We put in the work. Believe it ain't easy, I know. But we train for the love of the game, the love of the art. Now slap it up, bump it, let's roll. Let's roll. Let's roll. Let's roll.